So he tells me that when he realized that Satoshi went underground and kind of went under the radar, that there was a really legitimate reason. He had death threats on him or his loved ones, right? There was a legitimate reason why he needed to disappear. So Ian is actually the person, and I hope I'm allowed to say this, I don't think that he would mind, but Ian's actually the person who created this phenomenon and this idea that Satoshi was a
Hello and welcome back to the show. Today we have Robin Delisser joining us. Robin, it's a pleasure to have you on today. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Robin. So I'd like to start us off by congratulating you first and foremost on your new position as Bitcoin ambassador. Can you give us some insight into what you'll be doing in your new position and perhaps a little bit about, how the Bitcoin Association works and what it does for people who just aren't in the know?
Sure. So Bitcoin Association was established by Jimmy Nguyen. They host conferences all around the world and work with diplomats and government leaders all around the world. A big piece of what they work on, in my mind, is helping influence legislation and educate people about the enterprise blockchain and what's available as far as technical solutions to real world problems, right? It's basically going to disrupt every single industry. And so they're trying to educate and advocate for that around the globe. So there are currently, with the addition of myself and Dan Wagner from Haste Arcade, there are currently 34 ambassadors around the globe today, and I think they're looking to expand that program currently. One of my main objectives is to build the blockchain hub here in Delray Beach, Florida. We have the Block Dojo that is going to expand and open an office here as well. That will act as a think tank, an incubator and accelerator. We are looking to recruit the smartest minds in engineering and entrepreneurship and elevate everybody's level of thinking and what they're building by being able to sit down and huddle together for a few weeks or a few months or have them relocate here, right, to push out the most amazing technologies. So the other piece that is super important to me is I want to get more closely aligned with the Government Blockchain Association and help influence local leaders citywide, Miami, Delray Beach, where we're building the hub, state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and encourage the government leaders to understand what the capabilities are. Like we're proposing a Delray dollar, similar to the Miami Bitcoin, where the city can generate revenue and they can give stipends back to residents. Let's say, Miami currently has a proposal that they just got their first payout and it's over $5 million. And so they have a proposal that they're going to give a portion of proceeds to residents that had these, ridiculous increases in their rent that were like 40 to 60% and they can't sustain it, right? But instead of giving it like a handout, like a stimulus that we don't know that they're really going to support the economy or pay their rent or their mortgage, right? Maybe we have a program that, okay, you show us that you paid your rent in full or you paid your mortgage in full, and then we'll give you 30% back, right? So that we know that it's sustaining the local economy. So there's a lot of different cool things that we can do with that, but that was a long-winded answer. So
no, I like it. So a lot of businesses out there are really interested in learning more about Bitcoin, but they just don't have the basic understanding about what Bitcoin is capable of doing and everything that they could use to implement Bitcoin into their businesses. So what plans, if any, do you have to help bridge that gap for businesses looking to gain more insight into how Bitcoin works?
Well, I think the entire time that I've been involved in anything Bitcoin or blockchain related is I've been, that's kind of been one of my aims is you go to these conferences and 98% of it's bullshit, right? I mean, you have to wade through the BS. It's, oh, great, you built this fluffy little thing that's never going to be a monetized business or it's never really going to gain a lot of adoption, right? And one of the things I did when I started touring the conferences and then speaking at the conferences was I would go in the room and figure out who the smartest players were and who was building like meaningful stuff, right? And then I created an inner circle and I keep in close communication with all of those people. So through the conferences, through Twitter Spaces, through the podcast that we do, we're constantly trying to educate. I know you were on the space, Twitter Space yesterday, where we had the head of the FinTech program for Duke School of Engineering, and some really cool ideas came up there, either creating a consortium or creating biannual conferences specifically for enterprise leaders, right? And there's so much misinformation out there, not only just BS projects or companies or scams, but just so much misinformation. So when people really realize the utility of a blockchain that can process over 100,000 transactions per second for a fraction of a penny, eventually a thousandth of a penny is the goal, right? I mean, think about that. Just tell me that doesn't disrupt every industry that's out there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Waiting 2-3 days for Visa or MasterCard or your merchant processor to release your funds back to you. You get your funds in a millisecond for a fraction of a penny. I mean, there's that. If you look at nothing else, that alone is so incredibly disruptive that it will change the majority of the industries that are out there.
Oh, absolutely. It's exciting to think about what's actually capable, but like you said, there is a lot of misinformation out there. So it's like this battle where you have to try to educate people on what it's capable of doing. And then on top of it, you're also fighting another side war of just like getting people to understand like all of the differences between the misinformation.
I think once you engage with people, especially if you engage in the way, you know, Jimmy and Kurt are great at being diplomats and ambassadors. Yes. They're very diplomatic and professional. And I think that if we just have those kind of conversations like we did in the Twitter space yesterday, we had a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, but it was a very insightful conversation. We all learned something. We all got inspired in one way or another, right? So the more that we're able to talk to business leaders and show them real world use cases of, okay, if you have Chilean sea bass, where did it come from Chile? When did it go on the boat? And we can track it all the way through the supply chain. You reduce fraud and corruption, and right, like there's just so many different use cases. But I'm not so big on battling the battle. I don't care about the crypto civil war. I think it's useless. I don't talk to trolls or respond to trolls. It's a waste of time and energy. I'd rather go talk to the head of Duke and Berkeley and the top schools across Europe and unite those guys and get their students that they're working so hard to teach real world skills. Let's get them out into meaningful projects and build stuff and light their bulbs, right? And give them inspiration to build the new Web3 and the DAOs and all the things that we have coming in our future.
Right. Well, I guess could you touch a little bit on the intern program that we were talking about yesterday in the Twitter Spaces for anybody that wasn't there?
Yeah, so it's kind of a grassroots thing. It happened very organically, so I'm still kind of fleshing it out or building the plane while flying it, as they say. But I had created a strong partnership with Duke University's School of Engineering. They have a program that is fintech, which includes blockchain. The program is one of only 2 in the United States that have that blockchain and fintech program within their School of Engineering. There are other schools that have it within their School of Business, which is valuable too. But as far as the engineers and the coders and the hands-on techies, those are the only 2 providing the program. The program, particularly at Duke, is interesting. They teach students C, C++, Java, JavaScript, and Python. Each student is coming in. The amount of students that apply and get turned away is insane. I think, what did he tell us yesterday? That he gets over 1,000,
like over 1,000, 1,200,
over 1,000 applications, and he can only accept less than like 200. And the amount of applications is building every year, of course, because everybody's interested in this new technology that's going to change the world. But they all come in with almost the most perfect GRE quant scores you can have. The average is 1.655 and the perfect score is 170.
Yeah.
Or 165.5 with the perfect being 170. So incredibly bright people from incredible schools, top schools across the world that are learning real world or have developed hands-on skills in those coding languages. They all build an app, they all build a token, or they build a trading platform. They have a bunch of challenges and like mini hackathons ongoing with other schools where they build trading apps and predictive modeling on trading and all kinds of different things that are pretty valuable. So that has really taken off. I have about 30 students that are looking for internship and full-time opportunities soon when they graduate in December and next May. That I have about, I think I have about the same amount of companies and projects asking to interview these students, probably about 30. So I've been in back-to-back interviews, interviewing companies and students and trying to match the 2. I'm going to create these info sessions probably bi-weekly. I think I'm going to do it on Twitter Spaces because it's just the easiest. And we'll invite 5 or 10 companies at a time to come and pitch and share with the students what is their overall mission, what problem are they solving, what is their tech stack, and what's the culture of the company, so that the students can get inspired and see which companies they feel most aligned with. Some people are more interested in Web3 or smart contracts. So it's also I think, a really good opportunity for people that are out building to also hear what other companies are building and what challenges they've overcome, and maybe plug and play solutions that they didn't know exist that they can plug into their own solution that they're building. So I think those are going to be very, very productive and very fun. I've gotten an overwhelming response so far. So, and then the last piece of the intern program is that now Berkeley is the second school that offers this program in their School of Engineering. We have Exeter in the UK, we have Tufts here in the United States. All these other schools are scrambling to get involved. So we're going to develop a nice little network and a very productive, little robust program for, again, interns looking for real world experience, as well as full-time employment for the students as they graduate.
That's incredible, Robin. You've got your hands in just about a little bit of everything, right? And as I understand it, you're actually an entrepreneur as well on top of everything else. So you have your own company, Empower, which is about networking. So your background is in networking. And
actually, my core profession has always been recruiting. I own a tech and executive recruiting firm, and I've been in that industry for more than 2 decades in South Florida. Wow. During the time that I've been in recruiting, I've always been an advocate of innovation and technology. So I organized conferences. I organized the very first TEDx that ever came to Palm Beach County, Florida. I organized a blockchain conference in Miami where I keynoted with Brock Pearson and Jeremy Gardner, who at the time were 2 of the biggest names. Right. And I organized hackathons and advised startups over those 2 decades. So yeah, I'm definitely a hardcore serial entrepreneur, and I've been an advisor to startups for a very long time.
Wow, that's crazy. So would you, let's see, how has your background helped you to propel you further into the Bitcoin industry? What tools, tips, or tricks could you share with the viewers about building lasting professional relationships and being able to create an environment that helps you succeed, I suppose?
Yeah, then my answer would probably be philosophical. One, you have to do due diligence. You can't just read whatever the popular opinion is. You have to have like an insatiable curiosity, right? If you want to understand Bitcoin, blockchain, what it can create for the world, I think that it starts with that kind of insatiable curiosity where you're willing to do the research and dig deep and go way down the rabbit hole. Philosophically, as far as relationships, I mean, my company's called Empower. My tagline is empowering business, empowering people, because that's what we do. We empower people in their careers, and we empower companies to meet their goals and objectives and scale and grow quickly. I think that my philosophy is that everything is give and take in any relationship, personal, professional, right? So I personally try to create value before I ask for anything back, right? I try and show that that I genuinely care about the other people, and regardless if it's somebody in their career, these students looking for their first intern programs, or companies that are trying to hire and meet their deliverables and scale. So I think the most important thing you can do is care. Somebody at one point said, I think one of the best compliments I got in all the years I ran my recruiting firm is somebody said, "You guys put the human back in human resources."
Wow, that's a huge compliment.
I loved that. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm like, can we just be human? But yeah, I think caring is the most important thing, and showing that you actually can create value and that you care about the outcome for the other person, and you're not in this zero-sum game that you only care about the money that you make or, the benefit that you have personally. It needs to be symbiotic. And when you create those symbiotic relationships and people genuinely know that you care about them, then you have lifelong partnerships and lifelong friendships. So,
as I understand it, when you first started off in your career, by year 2, you were actually number 6 in the world. Like,
somebody did their research.
Like,
that's a really fun story. Let's tell this story because it's really fun. So I used to travel around opening restaurants, which was a really cool job. I had a friend in the restaurant that went into tech recruiting, and she went to work for the largest firm in the world. And after 6 months of her raving about how much she loved her job and meeting all these people that worked with her that loved their job, I was like, all right, I got to check it. I don't know what's in the Kool-Aid, but I'm going to go check this out. So I interviewed with the first guy, and he's like, everybody was sorority and frat, and I was not that at all. And I'm 20, I think I'm like 21, interviewing for my first like corporate job.
Wow.
And the guy said, no way, because I said something like made a joke about a frat house, and he didn't like that. So he said no. My friend goes marching into the boss's office, like his boss, and said, no, she's really good. You need to interview her. So this guy, this big army sergeant, former army sergeant, big black guy, right? And he's like, it's the funniest thing. It was kind of like the movie. It was halfway between the movie The Firm and the halfway between the movie Boiler Room. You know, $1 million. So this guy says in an interview, he goes, well, how much do you think you'll make your first year? And I said, I make like $35,000, $40,000 traveling around the country opening restaurants. If I was able to make like $60,000, $70,000 my first year, that'd probably be a good increase. And he goes, you don't belong here. I'm like, he goes, if you don't think you can make $100,000 to $200,000 in your first year, then you don't belong here. And I yelled right back at him and I was like, you don't know who I am. I left home at 15, right? And I figured it out on my own. And if you show me one person in this company that's actually making 200, I'll make 210, right? Goals have to be SMART, whatever the acronym was, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed, or whatever it was. And so when I said that to him, he literally called the office upstairs and he's like, Sean, hire her, do not pass go, do not collect $200, hire her now. So I got hired for the more elite division, and I got hired for the #1 office in the company and the #1 sales guy in the entire world. So by year 2, and I knew nothing about technology, and I was going into tech recruiting. By year 2, I was named #6 producer out of thousands of recruiters worldwide, and my clients were IBM, Motorola, Rock and Hut, and Office Depot. That was my first client base. Yeah.
Wow, that's an incredible story.
Very fun story. So and even, in fact, I was going to tell you on your last question, even years later after I left and I went out to recruit my own or start my own recruiting firm, people at the company will be like, oh, if Brittany's working with Robin, forget it. Like, you won't get in. They're thick as thieves. Like, everyone she works with loves her. Like, they are loyal to her. Like, oh, if you're trying to get in virtual bank or ultimate software, you're not going to get in if Robin's there. That was like the reputation.
Wow.
If you treat people right, then they are loyal to you most of the time, not always, but.
Oh, that's good advice though. Emerging into any industry, especially, and I don't want to say this, but especially as a woman, can be
male dominated industry. Absolutely. Tech is male dominated. It's certainly blockchain and is as well.
So kudos to you for that, because it's obvious that you've built a strong reputation for yourself in the industry, and not just in recruitment, but now also in Bitcoin. Yeah. So it's exciting to see that. And wow, you're an inspiration for other women such as myself here, looking up to you and seeing these things are possible. But
possible. And certainly in this world where people are more less likely to label or judge based on things that they've traditionally based on or judged in the past. So more than ever, there's great opportunity for women in STEM and blockchain and crypto.
Yeah.
So.
Crypto. Yeah. Well, BSV, not a crypto, but yeah, crypto.
Exactly. We have to say crypto just for the average person to be able to understand what we're talking about. So I flip back and forth with my use of the terminology.
Well, would you consider that maybe one of the things that people misunderstand about Bitcoin the most?
Probably the most, absolutely. Or that they think BTC is Bitcoin. That's a huge misunderstanding. And I'm firmly adamantly believe that everyone will lose the right to use the Bitcoin name unless it's agreed to by the inventor, by Satoshi, right, and written, and they pay licensing fees or whatever. So but certainly just crypto, just to begin with, is so just the name alone is not even indicative of what the industry or what Bitcoin is, right? All of these cryptos emerged out of the white paper that is the peer-to-peer electronic cash, and yet people still don't understand that it's literally just designed to be electronic cash or a third-party ledger system that works within law and regulation and is anti-corruption. And how many times is the word honest used in the white paper? I mean, it's literally to reduce and prevent corruption. So a lot of these things that are quote unquote crypto, I think there's over 33,000 cryptos right now, right, aren't even close to what Bitcoin was supposed to be, the digital currency that it was designed to be, and even less so the blockchain technology that it's capable of.
Right. Well, obviously, you're doing a lot to help promote and I guess get rid of those misconceptions. Satoshi obviously is doing his part, but what can we do as like the community to help move people away from these misconceptions and to help?
It's the same, the thing that I would have said about technology back in the day. It's like the more you go to hackathons, meetups, conferences, doing these podcasts, just engaging in conversation with people. Yeah, I mean, many of my friends that I first became friends with in the industry are still hardcore BTC maxis, and we can fight all day long, but at the end of the day, we still love each other. Like Kurt was cracking up when I walked into the Satoshi trial and the Kleiman trial in Miami, because this guy Fractal Encrypt has been sending all these awful posts all week. Just so anti-BSV and anti-Craig and whatever. And I walk in and I'm like, what up, dude? I give him a huge hug, and Kurt's kind of like, you really do know everyone. I'm like, that's my dog, man. He's a good guy. We believe very, very different things.
It's hard, you know, because my background is from a BTC Maxi standpoint, and Kurt is actually one of the people that helped me change my perspective about that. And you know, now that I can't talk with my regular friends about it so much, so I admire the fact that you're still able to. You just have to agree to disagree, and I always leave it with mark my words, like. We can agree to disagree, mark my words, because we're writing history. Like, I know which side of history I'm going to be on, right? Like, I know. I did exhaustive research so here's this is kind of interesting how I even got here, right? So I'm going to all these conferences and I'm speaking at conferences and I'm building this inner circle. And I mean, I have really cool people like John Najarian, who was a Chicago linebacker, and then for the Bears. And then he and his brother created Options Monster, which sold to E-Trade. E-Trade, I think it was $75 million. Now he runs the CNBC, like a crypto trader show. Right. I have a woman that teaches blockchain at MIT. She's a phenomenal lawyer and headlines conferences all around the world. I mean, like just really smart, cool people. So I never even had any desire to know who Satoshi was or do any research whatsoever. I was just fascinated by the technology and what people are building and how it's going to change the world, right? And then one day I find this article. I live in Palm Beach County, Florida, right? And so I find this article and I'm reading it, and it's like, okay, this guy dies. And the father of the guy that dies gets an email from some guy in London saying, no matter what you do, don't lose his hard drives because he's one of the 3 people that helped me create Bitcoin. And I'm like reading it, and now the father has died, the brother has taken over the lawsuit, and basically kind of, the way I understand it in a nutshell, kind of almost, what's the word? He pretty much said, give me X amount of money right now and I'll walk away. I don't care that it'll be worth 100 times that in the future. And Craig was like, no, that's not how we designed it. It needs to sit away locked for 10 years. So it brings more market and and I don't even have access to it. So that created a lawsuit here under the estate of the dead man, Dave Kleiman. And so I'm reading this and I'm like, wait, this is in my backyard of all places. Go all the way around the world, like Bitcoin and blockchain conferences, but this is literally in my backyard. So I wasn't active on Twitter then. I didn't know about the whole crypto civil war and everybody hating on fake Toshi and the whole, I didn't know anything about it. I just did an incredibly deep dive of research, and for the next 3 weeks, I obsessed about it day and night, and I took notebooks and notebooks of information, and I'm like, okay, if this is true, then this will be true. And if this is true, then this, and it all just added up perfectly. And I'm like, okay, Occam's razor, the simplest truth is the honest truth, right? So then I sat in on the trials, and the first trial I got to go to was when Shatters testified. He was CTO of InChain at the time. Right. And then eventually, as I've gotten to know all the players, kind of in the inner circle around Craig, every single one of them has validated exactly what I demised or surmised as the evolution of it. So kind of funny how I got here. I could care less. And then of course I get active on Twitter and start getting trolls and hate constantly, whatever. And then when I went to Zurich last June for the CoinGeek conference in Zurich, I had the pleasure of meeting Ian Grigg personally and sitting down to dinner with them. And it was the most hilarious thing. Like, you can't make this stuff up. So he tells me that when he realized that Satoshi went underground and kind of went under the radar, that there was a really legitimate reason, right? Right. Either you get locked away like the Liberty, I always mess it up, the Liberty Dollar Reserve guys, whatever, right? Because the world doesn't understand the currency. They think it's money laundering or fraudulent anarchist things, which people still think, but it's not. Or that he had death threats on him or his loved ones, right? There was a legitimate reason why he needed to disappear.
So Ian is actually the person, and I hope I'm allowed to say this, I don't think that he would mind, but Ian's actually the person who created this phenomenon and this idea that Satoshi was a group of people and that we never needed to know who Satoshi was, that we were better off allowing it to be that mysterious figure so that it could develop on its own. And we didn't tie it to a human that we have, right, that we maybe have judgments about, right? So very, very funny that he, when people were like frantically searching and trying to research and figure out who Satoshi was, he actually convinced the majority of the ecosystem at the time to stop researching and trying to figure it out, and created the idea that it was actually a group of people, which, you know, still subsists today, right? That concept still lingers and lives on today. Then we go downstairs and we run into Jimmy Wen and Craig, right? And everybody at a dinner table. And we walk up and Craig starts ragging on Ian. He's like, "You're the one that fucking outed me. You fucking gave away my identity. You doxed me." It was like hilarious. Like, I don't think anybody went to greater length to hide your identity than that dude. Like, but they're like best of friends. Ian's the inventor of Ricardian contracts, which is basically what smart contracts derived from. Or I might get that backwards. It might be the other way around. But anyways. Yeah, no, it's Ricardian contracts were a concept before, and it's what Craig actually developed smart contracts around, like a simplified version. So he hates me calling him grandfather, but I call him like the grandfather of smart contracts. And he was working in digital currencies before Bitcoin ever came about. So again, kind of the father or the grandfather to the industry in many ways.
Wow. I can't even believe that. But you know what? What better way to throw everybody off the trail than just by...
And only a mind like Ian would even think of this. Like, he's such an incredibly intelligent and wonderful, fun person. But yeah, like hilarious to hear it firsthand when I wasn't even inquiring. And I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense, right? Like,
it really does, though. It really does. No, it's good to know. Good to know. That's valuable information. Oh man,
and all these people that want to hate on us and call us frauds or whatever, like, if you know, the truth is funnier and stranger than fiction. Like, we couldn't have made this up if we wanted to. It's hilarious. Like, you think we would have planned it this way? Like, I don't think so. There was no benefit to it, but whatever.
Well, you know, nobody can blame Satoshi either for wanting to protect himself and his family and
protect his invention. That's
exactly.
As much as there's so much hate and fighting and whatever, like, the truth will prevail in the end anyways, because it'll do what it was designed to do. But imagine the whole world using your invention, or all these people making money, becoming influential and powerful, building multi-billion-dollar businesses, and they basically corrupted the very thing that you designed, right? And then use the name on top of it. Like, of course you're going to fight.
Yeah, no, definitely. I completely agree, Robin. Well, when do you think we'll see some movement in terms of like seeing that, Craig is, I guess the best way to put it is like seeing it on Coinbase, Craig's name on the white paper and the white paper being associated with actual Bitcoin on Coinbase.
I don't think I would speculate about that. I mean, I don't even know if BSV will gain the adoption that I would like to see in my lifetime, but I know it'll happen in my kids or my grandkids' lifetime.
That's true.
Grandkids before I age myself, but, right? But so who knows? It could be 10 years, it could be 20 years. These lawsuits are long and drawn out, and you're fighting. Again, it hit me a couple of weeks ago. I was like, this is so obvious, right? You created an electronic cash that is going to disrupt everything powerful industry, every elite powerful leader, all the people that are the Rothschilds and the One World Order. Like, literally, you're disrupting all the most powerful, richest people and systems and companies in the world. If you don't think that you're going to be fought tooth and nail harder than any other fight in probably human history, then you're seriously misguided, right? So it's a long battle. I think Craig and Calvin and their lawyers are incredibly smart. I think that they're always like 5 steps ahead, and they're playing this long-term game, but who knows? 10 years, 20 years, 30? I don't know, but I'm very confident in what the end result will be, regardless of when that will be.
I think that was eloquently put. I think that's exactly right, Robin. Well, what would be one piece of advice you would give to somebody who's just starting out trying to learn more about Bitcoin SV?
So when I did my research, my greatest resource was actually Craig's blogs. When you started reading his blogs and you understand that he's so well educated and thinks so deeply on so many different subjects. He, you know, computer science, cryptography. He's worked with the top intelligence agencies around the world on many things, but certainly on Silk Road and black markets and criminal activities that he wants to fight against. He's got education in theology. He's a pastor. He has education in law. He has education in economics. He's constantly studying. His goal is to have more patents than any other human in history by the time he passes. And certainly InChain has, I think it's fair to say that InChain has more patents currently in blockchain and Bitcoin than the entire rest of the world combined. Now you're going to tell me that guy didn't create Bitcoin?
Right.
He also filed Bitcoin on his taxes in 2009. Show me what, because again, he did it to be above board and work within law and regulation. Then he tried to educate the ATO about what it was, what kind of asset it was and how it should be treated, which of course backfired. But the greatest resource was his blog. So CraigWright.net, I think, is a wonderful wealth of knowledge. And then the new BSV the BSV blockchain web that just got created is a very good wealth of knowledge. And then the Bitcoin Association and the BSV blockchain have the BSV Academy. And so there's free online learning. And those, especially for developers or engineers, that's a fantastic place to start learning. The courses are easy to do and they're broken out pretty simplistic. So it's a good way to get started. And if you want to be hands-on in engineering.
Fantastic, Robin. Well, I guess as we go to wrap things up here, because I don't want to take up too much more of your time, is there any one question that you wish I would have asked you but didn't?
No, I didn't really have any expectations coming into it. I typically don't do interviews or podcasts. I think there's better people out there to speak on it than me, but hey, if I inspired somebody, that's cool, especially if we can inspire and empower women, that's even better. Of course, you and I are part of Women of BSV. I'm part of Women in Blockchain as well, the WIBS organization that started out of InChain. So hopefully something meaningful came out of it for somebody. And I think it was wonderful to chat with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Robin, for coming on. And I appreciate you so very much. But with that being said, guys, I do hope you enjoyed. Go ahead, smash the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below. Share this video with a friend, and also follow us on Twitter at BrittanyBits.